Welcome into the Beat Sessions, the place for all things music and where we do the listening for you. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Hope you're all having an outstanding weekend. Lots of great new music out there for all of us to sink our teeth into, including one pretty big surprise. So to lead things off for the week of June 16th, I'd like to talk about the return of Icelandic rockers Sigur and this new album, Atta. This is the band's 8th studio album. Atta is Icelandic for 8, and their follow-up to 2013's Sigur, which is an interesting project for these guys. Probably the hardest, darkest affair that they've put out to date. And it also did not feature multi-instrumentalist Kjartan Svensson. He is back, though. It's great to have him in the fold. I think as far as what he provides to this band's dynamic as a multi-instrumentalist, it's irreplaceable. So love having him back in the mix. Still a three-piece, though, and gone is drummer Ori Dearson, which is unfortunate. Dismissed from the band. He brought a lot to the table, especially as far as their live performance. If you've never seen this outfit, they're very well known for their ambience, the textures that they build. But they rock out. And when they rock out, Ori was a big part of that drive, just bringing the thunder on the skins, a big presence on record and on stage. And so it's a bummer that things had to go down the way they did with Ori. But, I love that Gorje Holm is still working on the bass for this outfit. He is marvelous as well. And in a lot of ways, his presence reminds me of Ori in the way that there's some licks that he can throw down that just take over. And you talk about that ambience, the ethereal textures that are built. And sometimes he'll just come out of left field with a riff, and it's really cool. It's one of the elements of their music that I've always really enjoyed. So happy that he's working with Kjartan and Jónsi, as we all know. He's certainly the visible figure of this outfit. If you're not familiar with these guys, he plays his electric guitar with a bow. It's pretty cool. He's definitely honed in that skill. And so more than anything, his guitar playing is cool, but his vocal presence is stunning always. But on this particular record, working with the London Contemporary Orchestra, those arrangements and his vocal melodies are stunning. I even barely put into words how beautiful they are. And so not working with any percussion on this record adds an interesting dynamic to the album. I would argue that all of their records deserve to be listened to from start to finish. But with this album, it drifts along without that percussion element. And I love the way that you sort of get lost in it for that reason. It's a marvelous feel that is unlike any other album that they've put out to date, in my opinion. So I love that. I love the familiarity of hearing Jónsi's voice, of hearing Gorje on that bass, having Kjartan back doing his thing. I think a big part of what makes the orchestration so excellent on this record is his presence. And doing something a little different and finding a way to do that with their signature style. It's really great to see them do something so dynamic, especially after a decade. I miss these cats. I don't know about the rest of you, but having new music from them is always a pleasure. Wanted to get into the vocal element as well. And if you're not familiar with this band, Jónsi's mostly singing. It's basically like half Icelandic and then half vonlenska, which is Icelandic for Hopelandic. It's a very interesting concept, the way that he is able to emote so much while basically singing gibberish. It's one of the coolest things in the world. It makes their music so special. And recently, politics have come up a bit on the channel, social issues, stuff that I don't mind discussing in any way, shape, or form. The big thing that I like to argue, though, in art, and the faux pas that I've noticed in some records, is that artists want to identify with a political party. And I think that's a bad move. I think that there's nothing rock and roll about playing the DNC or, the RNC, whatever. But I'll pull this album image back up. That's a fully loaded image. That's a statement right there. And that's the kind of stuff that I appreciate. Whether you agree or disagree, that album cover is awesome. Now, I think there's probably a lot of people, if you're familiar with the band, Jónsi is openly gay. And so I think a lot of people might look at that rainbow and see like, oh, it's, the happiness of the LGBTQ community going up in flames. And to some degree, that is what that album cover could represent. But Jonsi's a guy that you talk about the language, Hopelandic. It's universal. It's a tongue that is familiar to no one and to everyone basically, but only the guys in the band really know what's going on with that tongue. And so I look at this album cover and I look at, the idea and the fact that this outfit makes music for everybody. And that album cover, it's a bigger picture. The rainbow signals the end of the storm. And it really feels like, hope, that hope that we feel after the storm has passed is going up in flames. I think it's something that a lot of people can identify with. I think a lot of people look at the world as being a pretty dark place. Go ahead and pull that down now. But you talk about, Krekker, their last record. I mean, a pretty dark affair. And leaving that off and not making any music for a decade, I think a lot of people, thought artistically that there was very little hope left in these guys. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but you see that album cover and you hear this band return. And what I love about their music is there's so much that it emotes. There's so much going on. There's moments of sadness. There's mournful moments. There's, ominous moments where, fear maybe strikes at your heart a little bit. It's all very cinematic. But this record, the return of this band, it signals hope. And this music, these arrangements, they ultimately lead into that direction and find that. And they're so enriching and so gorgeous for that reason. Super pumped about this band. Really excited. And to see these guys on tour, I'm pretty sure that they are going to have that 41-piece orchestra out and about with them. So if you're able to check them out, this band it's probably one of the best live shows that I've ever had a privilege of checking out. Would encourage you to, if you have the means to get a ticket, go to that show. This thing is going to lead off with Glow, I believe Glow is how you pronounce that. It's the word for happy. Light ambient electronics to open this thing up. They fade in with that signature Sigur feel. One of the things I love about these guys, there's lots of bands that play around with washes and textures, all that fun electronic stuff. There's something about when you hear this outfit though, like they have dialed those sounds in to make them uniquely their own. It's so impressive. One of the many impressive things about these guys. Really like the way that the vocal builds in with the track. You've got this subdued production with the vocals, so it's a really nice element. Kind of acts as an interesting, intro sort of track. Gorgeous orchestration that works in from the London Contemporary Orchestra on that track. Great way to lead things off. Blueberg is your second song. That is Creeping Time is the word for that. Creeping Time is in like the herb. Simple string arrangement on this thing opens up for a minute and then the vocal enters. The dynamic is mournful on this song, but also hopeful. And the textures that develop, really interesting. It's a really fine example of the minimalism that this band is able to play with, filling out those textures and working with other simple instrumentation to really build a lot of sound. It's a very cool song. Skell. It's the word for shell is your third track. Strings open up quickly, followed by Jonsi's falsetto vocal. It sounds beautiful on this track. There's a sense of sadness that pervades this song. And then the vocal drops out, and then you get this eerie piano that enters. This might be the darkest song on the album. It's really cool though. The vocal is going to re-enter in this deeper tone and then back to that falsetto. Big build in the orchestration on this thing, but I like the way that the coda goes kind of quiet and it's just these mellow strings. It's really cool. This is an eerie song. I dig it though. Kletter, I believe is how you say that. Boulder or cliff is the translation there. Quietly off of Skell, just kind of this great little transition there. I love the build. Gorga's bass on this is awesome. And then you get these just great Eastern driven strings. I really like that influence there. But that bass riff is just thick and guttural, and it's really cool, the dynamic between that bass lick and the orchestration. You get this simple electronic beat that works in. It's kind of psychedelic too. It's a fun arrangement. And then it's just strings for a little bit. You get this much brighter arrangement when those come in. And then the bass, it drops out, but I love it when it re-enters, when it comes back with that dark feel. This is my second favorite track. I definitely really like this song quite a bit. It's going to lead into your fifth song more. Strings open up with this melancholy mood. Vocals going to enter quickly. Pretty harmonies that build the textures on this track. I like that aspect of this song. Makes it pretty unique. in this run of songs. Big melody comes in at about 115. Takes this hopeful turn. Really like the way that this thing is going to back off to minimal strings momentarily, and then you get this great build back that's very cinematic. I mean, all their stuff is, but in this particular song, really struck me in that regard. Andra is your sixth song. Breathe is the translation there. This is definitely my favorite song. You get these soft strings and textures. The vocal enters with this really soft melody to match. You get these arpeggiated strings, and I think that this is the hurdy-gurdy at work here. Loving the presence of that instrument here. Working in really like the guitar that works in on this thing. It's got this cool little bridge where that's featured. The vocal and the other textures work back towards the end of the song. It's an excellent track. Definitely my favorite. Gold is your seventh song. Really like the simplicity of this and kind of a different turn. The piano is simple. It's kind of the highlight. And the orchestration basically complements the piano. It's not really at the forefront as it is on a lot of tracks. So it's a cool dynamic there. Great mellow tune. It's going to lead into Sigur is your eighth track. That's the word for warm. You got the electronic washes and the vocal that opens up. Has this monastic feel. It just makes you feel like you're in a big cathedral. It's pretty cool. But then you get these lush strings that work in. Really pretty here. Bright vocal that works in, and just really beautifully swells towards the back end of the track. All that orchestration leading into your penultimate track, Fall. Back to that simplicity. I like this for the penultimate track. Simple piano. It's very evocative, though. You get these subtle electronic textures that work in, and it leads into your final track, the title track 8. Big song, and probably, I think it's probably going to end up being one of those big moments that people identify in Sigur Ros's catalog when all is said and done. But light strings to open, the addition of the piano, and there's these somber strings that enter with this kind of sad piano element that's just beautiful. Vocal provides a brilliant contrast to the elements. Lush and bright melodies take hold at about 2 minutes. Backs off minimally for a minute or so, and then the textures build back in. And then this thing, it drops about halfway out, and it's just kind of got this like mellow feel for the outro. The last few minutes of the song, I'd say it's probably about like 4 minutes. Just this really cool exploration of texture. And it's just, the album just sort of drifts off. A beautiful project. Definitely a vinyl please. I do have some bad news about that. The vinyl will not be available until September 1st. But in the meantime, you can stream this thing. Definitely worth checking out. And I hope you enjoy it. Hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help us blow this project up in 2023. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on the Beat Sessions.